is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Well, folks, the world is going to hell in a handbasket, and around here at the Hot Zone, that's just where the fun gets started. Today, I've got a great author on with us named Troy Anderson, and now he's a Pulitzer nominated author, right, Troy? We got you on here, and has written a couple of other best-selling books, like let's let you tell us about some of your other books and how they lead into the book we're talking about now, which is The Military Guide to Armageddon: Battle-Tested Strategies to Prepare Your Life and Soul for the End Times. That's a book you've now written with Colonel Dave Lamona. Now, tell me a little bit about why you wrote this book and how your other books kind of feed into it.
Yeah, so I've been a journalist for about 3 decades. I've worked at the Los Angeles Daily News for many years. And here about a decade ago, a friend invited me to this prophecy conference in Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. And I heard Paul McGuire, who I wrote the Babylon Code of Trumpocalypse with, talk about the Bible prophecy. And I sort of flashed back to when I was a kid and reading The Late Great Planet Earth and Hal Lindsey and all that kind of stuff. And so I became interested in investigating. Are we really moving into these end time events that the Bible talks about? And so over the last decade, I've done over 200 interviews of major faith leaders, Bible prophecy experts pretty much in every field. Billy Graham told me signs of the end of the age are converging for the first time since Jesus made those predictions. And this overwhelming consensus among major faith leaders, Tim LaHaye, Hal Lindsey, Pastor Greg Laurie, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, they all believe that we're moving into this period that Jesus and the prophets predicted, thousands of years ago. But then there's experts at existential risk institutes at Harvard and MIT and Princeton. They released annual reports on the top 10 threats, facing the world. Oxford Future of Humanity Institute has a report that says, of course, nuclear war, artificial intelligence run amok, or even a global totalitarian government. So even the experts on the secular side believe that we're facing, great dangers, possibly the end of human civilization unless drastic actions are taken. So that's how I sort of got into the first couple of books, the Babylon. World socialist system. And
so
now
back up, you just cut out on me. The Babylon what?
Yes, the first book's called The Babylon Code. Second book's called Trumpocalypse. Are both #1 bestsellers published by Faithward Sachette. And they explore, this question, and also globalism, this push for sort of a world socialist system that we're seeing emerging now. And now I've teamed up with a U.S. Army chaplain and colonel, David Giammona, who feels strongly called to help sort of wake up, prepare people for, what's, likely coming. And so we've written a book called The Military Guide to Armageddon. It just came out a couple of weeks ago and became a #1 bestseller on Amazon and different, Barnes and Noble and that kind of thing.
So this is not necessarily a book about doomsday prepping necessarily or anything like that. It's more of how to prepare spiritually for that kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, most of the book is talking about spiritual preparations, how to, prepare for, psychologically, spiritually for whatever's ahead. But we also have a chapter called Prepping for the End Times that has all kinds of stuff about, physical preparations, the prudent things to do to prepare for any kind of disaster. So we do cover that too. So it covers the full spectrum.
Well, that's great. I have found myself in the last few days really feeling like, man, the whole world is certainly falling apart. And it's kind of depressing. Here we are in the middle of a global pandemic. We just had elected a socialist to the highest office in the land. And there is definitely an agenda out there to turn this country into something that I won't recognize from the country of my youth. And that's pretty daunting, let's put it that way. How can our viewers deal with this psychologically, spiritually, and physically?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the the primary reasons why we wrote this book. The Colonel got a hold of me in early 2018, shortly after Trumpocalypse came out, and he just sort of contacted me out of the blue. Said he'd written a book called The Making of a Warrior, and he had actually been praying, Lord, I've written this book. How do I get this published? And so he feels that God connected us together. And when he called me and told me about this, the thought occurred to me. I knew about these Gallup polls that say like 70 to 80% of Americans highly respect the military. And then, I knew that, like pastors are probably like at 40%, Congress is like, 30%, and the media, like 10%. So the thought occurred to me, if America listened to anybody about the dangers we're facing, to listen to a U.S. Army chaplain and colonel. And so I agreed to help him write this book. And so over the last, and he actually told me that he believed that God had told him, back in early 2018, he said that by the time this book came out, the world would be a completely different place. And this is long before the COVID-19 pandemic and just all the chaos we've seen unfolding in politics and everything. And now, the election of the, President Biden. And so we feel that we wrote this book to help people draw closer to God, because the Bible is a book of miracles. Essentially, God intervenes in human affairs with using regular people in miraculous ways. And so that's one of the things, is to help us draw close to God and rely on the power of prayer and those kind of things to help us move through what's coming. And and it's also a book that's encouraging and inspirational. We've gotten all kinds of great reviews on Amazon. People feel inspired by this book. They feel sort of courageous and emboldened by it, and just the drawing closer to God as we move into this period of time is going to be crucial for all of us to navigate what's ahead.
Yeah, it certainly makes me want to dive into the Bible and not come out again. But there are some very real world implications to what we're seeing. My grandparents all believed that they would not see death, that the end times would happen before they died, before the end of their lives. That they were incorrect. They're all gone now. My parents felt the same way. They're both gone. It's tempting for me to think that, looking around, just as it was for my grandparents at the beginning of World War II, I'm sure. But if there's anything I've learned watching other countries around the world and their trajectories, it's that these things happen very, very slowly until they don't, and then they happen very, very quickly. And things are changing very fast in the United States today. It's dizzying to see how all of a sudden you can be deplatformed for even thinking the wrong things. That there are mobs of quote unquote activists who are going around and doing everything they can to ruin the lives of people who disagree with them. That it could easily get to the point where, if you are deemed to have the wrong mindset, the wrong worldview, you won't be able to have a social media account. You won't be able to get a bank account or get insurance on your life, house, car. You won't be able to get on an airplane. You won't be able to renew your passport. I mean, I don't know how far that goes or how quickly it goes, but the one thing we know is that it's not going to go back the other direction, most likely. And so whether or not it happens in my lifetime, what preparations can I make so that my children will be better prepared for this kind of disaster, this kind of ongoing crisis that we're going to see in the days ahead?
We have a ministry called Battle Ready Ministries. I just got off a call a few minutes ago. We had a major general on the call today, and he talked about that we're in the middle of asymmetrical warfare. And this, a lot of what's happening is disinformation campaigns and, propaganda, the fake news, and all these different kind of things that are going on. So people are being affected by that psychologically and mentally. And we've seen that. I'm sure you heard about the many different things surrounding this election and a lot of the disinformation and such. So first of all, the book is designed to sort of guide us through the truth. Jesus said the truth will set you free, and the Bible is the foundation of truth. And of course, but Jesus said that nobody knows the day or hour when all this is going to occur. So even though it looks like there's a lot of signs that this may be it, we don't know for sure, and only God knows when this will all unfold. So, but it's just prudent and wise to get ready, psychologically, spiritually, to draw closer to God. So the book, what it does is it takes you through what's called the making of a warrior process. In the military, they transform you from a regular civilian into a soldier that can fight in combat. And so this book, in a spiritual sense, takes you through that whole process. The colonel took his 3 decades in the military and sort of translates that into spiritual warfare terms. The Bible talks about putting on the full armor of God, the sword of the Spirit, the word of God, the breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation, the gospel, your feet readied with the gospel, and that kind of thing. And so there's a lot of military kind of terminology in the Bible. It talks about the angels organized in a military structure, refers to God as the Lord God of armies. King David was in 60 of the Bible's 90 battles. In fact, in the military, they actually study King David. They study the Bible and all the military battles. So it's designed to help you, sort of up your game in terms of spiritual warfare, prayer, Bible reading, drawing close to God, walking the supernatural power, protection, provision of the Holy Spirit, which is going to be crucial for whatever is coming next. As the elite roll out what's called the Great Reset, sort of this, their plan that hooks in with the United Nations Agenda 2030. There's probably going to be increased, persecution of believers and people that don't go along with the program. So it's going to be, crucial in our view to, draw closer to God to navigate all this.
Yes, it certainly will be. We in the military, the primary overarching goal of the military is to be prepared for anything that the enemy can throw at you. And so I remember when I was in the military, if you can only do so much training on movement to contact and weapons handling and that sort of thing. And so it got to the point in peacetime where our leaders kind of said, well, what don't they know how to do that we could train them on that might help them in combat, at some point. So I remember being taught to hot wire cars and to drive bulldozers and motorcycles and every other wheeled thing and track thing out there, to fire and be familiar with all forms of enemy weaponry, not just the weaponry of the United States. And I think the concept there is that the more you carry in your head, the less you have to carry on your back. And the more prepared you are, physically, spiritually, mentally, the better off you'll be when the crisis comes. As a matter of fact, if you look at 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, God has not given us a spirit of timidity, but of power and love and self-discipline. Well, those 3 things are exactly what the military works on. They work on knowledge is power. So the more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are in battle. Love, the camaraderie of men is what keeps you in battle when the bullets are flying. When you could be about to die, love of country is kind of back there somewhere. The only thing that keeps you in the fight is knowing that your buddies on your left and right need you. And of course, self-discipline is part and parcel with the military. So it's obvious that the Apostle Paul thought of that first, and militaries throughout history have taken those 3 things and put them to use. But we can do the same thing. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's incredibly insightful, wisdom there.
Yeah. So, who is the audience that you're writing for with this book?
Yeah, so actually, the major general we talked to today, he's the 22nd chief of chaplains. He told us he'd actually like to try to get this book into the hands of soldiers around the world, and then of course, our publisher's chosen book, so it's it's a mainstream publisher, so that just people in general are buying this book. So I think there's sort of 2 audiences. You sort of got the military audience, and then you have sort of people who are interested in the end times, Bible prophecy, spiritual warfare. How to navigate everything that's going on now. How to what are the best things that the Bible teaches us, and how to get through this.
Well, it sounds like a good crossover, and I hope it does well. Well, thank you for your time today. Folks, if you want to get this book, you can get it from Amazon. Where else can they get the book, Troy?
Oh yeah, it's on Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, Books A Million, or if you can go to our websites, it's troyanderson.us and davidjgiamona.com.
Okay. Well, folks, I highly recommend you pick the book up. And if the last couple of days that I've seen of the new Biden administration are any indication, you're definitely going to need it for the next 4 years. So go get the book, and we'll try to have you guys back. Troy, I'd like to maybe get you and Colonel Giamona on our other podcast, the Arms Room podcast, which is kind of a men's get together on Saturday mornings, and have you talk a little bit about it to the guys there.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. We'd be honored.
All right, Troy Anderson, thank you for your time. Folks, pick up that book. We'll see you next time on The Hot Zone.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.